We are live. So, welcome everybody. If you are listening to the podcast, we are on episode 70. Super excited about it. And this topic today is about our purpose and our calling. And I feel like every season of life, no matter what age you are, we all have a purpose and calling at that particular time. And I'm so excited to have you on, Carla. This is Carla Grubb, and I would love for you to introduce yourself and tell them a little bit about you, and then just go into, what led you into that purpose and calling, because I know there was one statement that really stood out to me when we had a conversation, and that one was, I thought my purpose was different than what it actually became.
Yeah, it's so true. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so glad to be here and to get to know your audience a little bit. And I'm so thrilled that you and I got to meet and talk. I think it was last week. Was it last week? I don't remember. When we're in shutdown, all these weeks start to just blend together. I don't even know what day it is half the time. Like, Wednesday, I don't know.
Exactly.
So I'm, like you said, Carla Grubb, and I currently just launched a business called Weight Release, which is helping women with losing weight without dieting. And I'll talk more about that a little later. But for the last 10 years, I've owned a business in education, product development, and standardized testing. And before that, and even some of the time I was doing this business, that business as well, I worked in full-time ministry for a number of years. And that's actually what I thought I was going to be doing for my whole life. I became a Christian when I was in college and really just had a major life change and fell in love with God and the Bible and really wanted to give my life to that completely. And I had some great examples of people in front of me that were working in the ministry. So my whole goal in life was I want to be in the full-time ministry. I want to work for a church and I want to spend my life doing that. And so when I graduated from graduate school, I did get hired into the ministry and I worked in full-time ministry for 6 years. And during that time, I also met my husband, who was also single and working in the ministry. And I thought, oh, this is great. We're going to get married. We're going to lead churches together. Like, this is going to be our lifelong thing. But it didn't turn out to be that plan at all. And that was a big shock to me. So after a couple years of marriage, and I was pregnant with our first baby, our church went through a really big shakeup and we lost our jobs. And it was in such a dramatic fashion that we felt like we will never do the ministry again. So we both started working in the secular world. I became a mother. He worked in sales and corporate training. I really wanted to be home with my kids. That was something that was really important to me. So it was difficult for me because in my mind, if I was doing the ministry, like the life I had pictured was I'm going to work with my husband leading a church and I'll be available to my children. And then when it turned out that I had to go get a job when my daughter was 1.5, I just was like, what is this? It just wasn't what I expected in life. So, but I did end up working, and then that led me to being able to start my own business in testing and education, which got me back home with my kids, which is what I really wanted. So I did that for 10 years. And then after 10 years out of the ministry, my husband was like, I feel like I want to go back in the ministry. And I thought, no, you're crazy. Like by that time, I was like, I'm good. I have my whole life set. I'm happy. Everything is just as I want it to be. And going back in the ministry is going to be moving to a different city and finding a new job and like for him. But I prayed about it and God made it very clear, like, this is going to be a good thing. Just at least be open to the possibility. So I said, okay, I'll be open to the possibility. And within a week we had an interview. And then 2 months later we were hired, and a month later we were moving. So
that's amazing.
It was quite a wild ride.
Yeah. So to pause at that one statement that, you had a little resistance in you, right?
Yeah.
And I feel like when God places something on our heart, like it keeps festering, right? Like you can't suppress it anymore.
Mhm.
Like we
Yeah.
don't sometimes understand why or what it is. And so we pull back and we try to resist, but it keeps bubbling up, right?
Yes, that is so true. And honestly, that's what happened with my husband because he had been talking about wanting to go back in the ministry for several years before that point. He would bring it up, and I would say, well, I don't know, we'll see, which really in my mind was, no way. And then he'd bring it up a few months later, and I'd be like, maybe one day, maybe one day. And I got away with that for a few years. And then finally, that last time he said, I really feel like I want to go back to the ministry. And I said, well, maybe one day. And he said, at some point, you're going to have to stop saying that and give me an answer. And I was like, oh, he's serious now. Like, I have to actually ask God what God thinks instead of me like, nah, maybe. Yeah. And you're right. I do think, Alice, it's true. Like sometimes you have those little tugs on your heart, right? And the truth is I had unfinished business in the ministry and I was hiding from it for all those years. And I needed to go back. God knew that we needed to go back so that we could work through some things that just had never really been worked through. And he used that time to expose some things inside of me that I really needed healing in that I just was avoiding.
Yeah.
So it turned out to be a really good thing. We actually did not stay in the ministry. We worked it for another 2 years and then we came out again. So it was like, my life has just been like, am I doing this? Am I doing that? Am I doing this? Am I doing that? And yet all of it like works together in this beautiful plan, right?
So you have to like trust that journey as well.
Yeah, it is. It is such a journey. Such a journey. So when we came out of the ministry again, we spent some time and really did some deeper healing. And because of that road and that journey, that's why I'm able to be where I am now today. We needed to work on things in our marriage. I had to work on things personally that I needed to change. And so during that time, I was still working this education business on the side, part-time from home. I worked part-time. Thankfully, it was a very successful business. So the money was not part-time money, which was great. But even having that business enabled us to be able to work through things emotionally because we had the freedom to be able to do that, which was great.
So that was your like teaching business your
it's like standardized testing. We work on the tests that kids take in the schools. We work on those. Okay. But that brings me to this year, which is really what I want to share about. That was the backstory. Yeah. When you talked about that statement I made, that's really what this year has been about, because sometimes you don't know, like you didn't realize what God really planned for you. And this year, I spent some time at the beginning of the year trying to figure out, at 47 years old, I'm almost to your group, not quite. You can make me an honorary member for today. At 47 years old, I'm like, what do I want to be when I grow up? That's kind of how I felt. Like my children are now getting older. My oldest is only has 1 year in school left, and then she'll be, going off to do whatever she does. My younger daughter is entering her teenage years, and so I have more free time than I did when they were little. And at the same time, my education business was starting to really slow down a lot. And I thought, I don't feel like the amount of work that I need to put into it, I'm willing to do that work. And I still believe in what I'm doing. And one of the reasons I love that business is that I provide at-home work for a lot of other people, which is really important to me.
Right.
But I just felt like my heart isn't like 20 years from now, this was going to be like my life's work kind of thing. And I started having thoughts of what do I really want my life's work to be? And this was a really big shift, Alice, from the way I used to live was, well, I don't know, God, what do you want me to do? Right? Like, God, what do you want me to do? What do you want? What do you want? And what I've seen over the last few years is that God can work that way, but he puts desires on our heart for a reason. And each of us, we're all unique individuals, right? And we all have our own different talents and our different giftings and different experiences in life. And so then when we stop and think about, well, what do I want? God works through that because he's like, yeah, I made you, Carla, to be this way because the things that I want are not going to be the same as what Alice wants or what somebody else wants.
Right.
And then if I'm in line with what my desires are, then what does scripture say? God's going to give us the desires of our heart, right?
Right.
So I had to really I take responsibility instead of like, well, whatever God wants. Oh, well, God told me to do it. So if it doesn't work out, it's not my fault. It's his fault. Right? He told me to. It's amazing the little things we can do inside of our minds. Right? I don't have any responsibility. That's on God. That was his.
Exactly. What was that tug then that you were feeling, Carla? Like, so now, you're in a different place and you're doing testing online, and then now you're feeling this tug. So what is this, like, how did that come about? And
so this is how it came about. And I actually highly recommend this exercise for any woman that's thinking about, like, what's my next step or what do I really want to be doing with my life? The way it came about was I was working with a coach in January and February, and kind of like a mindset coach. And he asked me, what do you want? And I didn't know. I literally couldn't tell him. I was like, I don't know what I want. I mean, I don't know. I can't believe that it was only 6 months ago that I was literally like, I don't know what I want. And he said, okay, so do this. And I highly recommend this exercise.
okay.
He said, write down what you don't want in your life and like your biggest fears, things you wouldn't want to have happen. And also write down your biggest areas of frustration right now, things that really bother you and really get to you and are a source of frustration for you at the moment. So write all those down. And then on the opposite, write down on the other side of the page, write down the opposite of those things. So like if I'm frustrated with the fact that my business isn't making money right now, okay, the opposite is my business is thriving and bringing in lots of income. So it's just one example. If your frustration is my husband doesn't listen to me, that wasn't on my list. Just an example. Just to keep him out in the clear. But it used to be back in the day. But my husband doesn't listen to me. The opposite would be I have a great relationship with a loving husband who cares about my needs, right? So then you get a picture of what you actually do want. And then you can start to think, okay, this is what I want. Also, he asked me to think about, like, when you consider your life in 5 years or 3 years, what would you like to be doing? And that freed me up to really find the tug in my heart. Oh my goodness, the lawnmower guy is here and he's mowing outside. You all came on a little late, but if you had been in here 5 minutes before we went on, I was going to do this on the front porch. Remember, Alice? I was planning to sit on the front porch. He's like, I want to be on the porch right now.
See, God has his hand in everything, Carla. God says, no, Carla, you cannot go outside today.
You all might still hear it as he goes by, but it's okay. So I did these exercises, and what I realized is what I really want to do in life and what I have been dreaming about for 20 years, almost 20 years, is to help other women with losing weight. It has been a struggle of my life. It's something I'm passionate about. I really care about. My heart goes out to women about it. I know a lot about it. And that's what I really want to be doing. But at that time in January, I felt like, okay, or February, now I know what I want. And I'm going to work toward that. And I was thinking, like, in a year or two, I'll do that. Once I've lost all my weight myself, then I will turn around and teach other people how to do it. And I was in that mindset for maybe, I don't know, 2 months, 3 months. And I don't remember how it happened, but God just, he helps you with things. Yeah. And one day I realized, you know what? I would teach women, and I'm teaching myself in this journey, that women who struggle with their weight, what we do is we wait until we've lost the weight to do stuff, right? Yeah. Once I lose the weight, I'll get the perfect boyfriend. Or once I lose weight, then my husband will be nice to me. Once I lose weight, I'll wear the dress that I love or the swimsuit that I want. Once I lose weight, you just fill in the blank, right? It's everything. Right. It's like this dream life one day. And I realized I was doing that. Once I lose weight, then I'll talk to other women about it. Right. And I realized the only thing that I was waiting for was fear, like fear of judgment, fear that people wouldn't want to listen to me, fear of putting myself out there and looking bad. So and once I realized that, I was like, oh no, I have to do it now.
Yeah, so like you were feeling like that imposter syndrome, like you weren't completely in it, so you felt like you weren't going to be good enough to teach other women how to do that, right?
Yep. Yeah, like we have to, don't we do that as women? We're like, we have to be perfect, right? We have to present ourselves like we have it all together. I've got it all figured out. And certainly if you're going to be out online as a coach teaching other people, you better have your stuff together. And but I decided that's not really what women need. Like we need authenticity. We need people that are real. Like I have lost 30 pounds and I have done a lot of major shifts in my life and my mindset. So, hey, if we're all walking this journey and I'm like half a mile ahead of you, great. I'll show you the way to get to where I am. And by the time you get here, then I should be another half mile ahead. And then, I can keep showing you the way. And that's more how I'm approaching what I'm doing now. We're all in it together, really.
Exactly. But I also love the other statement that you said to me too, Carla, was like, first, you just have to be so happy with the skin you're in. Mm-hmm. Meaning like you have to learn to love yourself before you can really think about shedding that weight, or because that's just really like a external thing. But really, it begins with the internal process, right? And so when you said you got to be so good with the skin you're in, and then really the weight releases itself because you have released maybe something that you're holding on to, that unforgiveness to somebody or some anger or resentment. And, once you release that, other things get released from you as well, right?
It's so true. It's so true because, see, we don't realize there's such an emotional connection. And I think for all those years that I was dieting, I wasn't dealing with what was really going on inside of me. I was just looking for the next plan, the plan that's going to work. Oh, okay. I lost 80 pounds by counting calories before, so I'm going to do that now. And then it didn't work. Now, of course, there's physical reasons why. We know it's a little different losing weight when you're 35 than when you're 20. It takes a little more time. But there was a lot of emotional stuff that I was carrying. And over the last few years, I have been trained in some different techniques of releasing emotions from the body. And I've really learned that there is a huge connection there. If you're carrying a lot of trauma or carrying a lot of emotion, and particularly forgiveness of others, but also of yourself, which comes back to the loving yourself thing, it's going to be incredibly difficult for you to release that weight. And like you mentioned, Alice, this whole idea of loving ourselves, like there is no way that the Carla of 5 years ago could be doing this. Like I couldn't even, when I went back to try to find before pictures of myself, it was difficult to find them because I was never in front of the camera. I mean, literally never. I hid from the camera as much as possible. Tons of pictures of my children, almost none of me.
Wow.
But once I started to learn how to love and appreciate who I am for who I am and not for how I look, then I was able to be comfortable in front of the camera. And now, like, it's fun. It's like, oh, here I am, and yeah, hey, there's bags under my eyes and there's wrinkles up here. And oh, look, my arm's a little, got a little extra going on here, but that's okay. It's okay.
You're so beautiful, Carla.
Oh, thank you so much.
And your spirit is just so pure. I always believe, like your vibe attracts your tribe. I knew that you were a Christian, the immediate connection online, and that, if you're not connected to somebody, it's going to repel somebody, right? So
Right.
I knew immediately what a genuine person you were. But I also want you to tell our audience also that a amazing thing that you did as well.
Which one?
The triathlon.
I was going to say that. Okay, so which amazing thing? I've done so many amazing things. You get all the self-love here. You get
like if you just tell me to try to run a 5K like that, like no way.
Okay, yes. So that was me, totally. Maybe some of your women can relate to this. Some people in your audience, like I was that woman that I'd be driving my car down the street, and then I'd see this skinny mini lady go running by. She's jogging and her little ponytail's bouncing, and I would just watch her and think, I want that to be me. Like I want to be able to be a runner, but I hate running. Like I didn't understand how, I could want to be that, and yet I hate running. And I used to hate running, and that was me then. And I would try. I'd go out and be like, okay, I'm gonna walk, or I'm gonna try to run, and I would try, and then after 50 yards, I can't breathe, and it's hard, and I hate running. Why am I doing this? I hate running. I hate running. But I had a friend. In 2010, I moved into this home, and she was my next door neighbor. Great lady. I'm so glad I got to live next to her. Her name is Lillian, and she introduced me to the concept of larger women running. I thought, I didn't feel like I fit in that crowd, right? Well, she had lost over, at that point, I think it was 70 pounds. She's now, since then, she's over 100. She looks amazing. But she did a Disney half marathon, it's called the Disney Princess Half Marathon. It's geared toward women. And she had done that, and a friend of hers had helped her do it. And she was still, she was my size at the time that we're talking. And I think she started at 300 and something pounds, and she had lost weight down to where she was my size. And she's telling me how she ran this half marathon. And I just thought, I didn't know ladies our size could do that. I didn't even know that was possible. And so that put the idea in my head. I didn't get there until 2017, but the idea was there the whole time. And finally, at the beginning of 2016, I decided, you know what, I'm going to do that. I have an entire year till February 2017. I could do it. If I took a whole year and I worked up to it, I know I could do it. And so that's what I did. I gave myself an entire year, and I just kept adding mileage. So I started out walking a mile, and then walking 2 miles and jogging a little more. Before you knew it, I was doing these longer races. Oh, somebody said they part of the race. It is a lot of fun. You should totally do it. I was actually going to do it this coming February, and I was so bummed because I went to register and I didn't make it on time. It sold out while I was in the shopping cart. I was sad. Anyway, it's a great race. It's wonderful. So that's where I started, and then I ended up doing 3 or 4 more half marathons after that. And then the other thing that I've always wanted to do, not always, since 2000, I got this idea of I want to do a triathlon in the year 2000. Well, I finally did it in 2019. After doing the half marathons, I was like, triathlon's only, the distance I was going to do, it's a 700-meter swim and a 10-mile bike ride and a 3-mile run. And I thought, 3 miles? That's nothing. I did 13. I'm like, that's just a little baby run. That's a training run. That's nothing. And riding a bike, I love to ride my bike as a kid. I can ride a bike, please. I can ride a bike, and I like swimming. So, what's the problem? I can do this. Whenever I would think about a triathlon before 2016, it was always the running that got me. I was like, I can't run. I can't run. So once I got through that, I was like, I can do it. So I did. Last year, again, I gave myself 6 months. triathlons are in the summer, right? When you can swim in a lake and it's not cold. And so I started in January and I started training. And listen, I was slow. I'm not going to lie to you. I was slow, but I crossed the finish line and I have the medal. That's all I care about. It was a great experience.
That's amazing, because what does that teach all of us right here is what the mind believes you can achieve, right? So it's always mind over matter.
Totally it is.
Totally. Yeah. And so as we're wrapping this up, I just love you, Carla. Like, I could talk to you forever about.
We could.
I know that
we did last week.
But you know what I would love for you to leave our women with is, and as you're talking, I'm thinking, you know, because you're saying larger size women, who are like the top models right now? They're the bigger size models. Who would have thought that? Okay, so somebody broke that barrier when they saw like little Twiggy, and they didn't fit that model either, right? But somebody came across and was like, I am beautiful. I am good in the skin I am in, and I can do that too.
Yes.
Right? So we as women are so powerful for each other. And that's why I love you so much, Carla, because you just empower so many women just because you are a certain size. Where is it in the Bible that says we're supposed to be a certain size?
It's not in there. I've read it cover to cover a few times.
Not there. But what God commands us to do is to always forgive. And for one, never carry the burden of worrying or anxiety or any of that. So when we release that, then that's what is released from us. So I would love for you to leave them with just, you know, a motto that if they are walking right now, not sure of what God has put them here on this earth for, what is your biggest thought to leave them with?
I would say it's be kind and patient with yourself. I think as women, we are so hard on ourselves. And if you're still trying to determine your path or where God is taking you, you know, what does God say? He says, love is patient and love is kind. And if we are not sure yet where we're going, that's okay. You know, he looks at us as his daughters. We wouldn't look at like my daughter who is 17 going into her senior year, she doesn't know what she wants to do in college yet. And I tell her, that's okay. Like, you don't have to know right now at 17 what you're going to do with her. How many of us knew at 17 what we would be doing at 50?
Well, how many of us know?
Yeah, I know. I'm still figuring out what I want to be when I grow up. So I just think we're so hard on ourselves. And sometimes God just needs to walk us through a few things before the next step becomes clear. So just being kind and patient with ourselves. I think
I love that. I love that so much. Thank you so much, Carla, for being
having me. This was great.
I love you. Thank you for being here with our audience. And if you have not subscribed to the podcast, please hit the subscribe button. And we come to you every single week with some kind of inspiration, motivation, something that you can apply to your life right now. So we hope you have a good day, and we will see you next time on the podcast.
Bye, Thank you so much, Alice. Bye.